building new products and services. So that's really good. And here's a story to inspire you. Now, personal finance to us, I mean, to a lot of us, it means like we keep on spending until the collection agency comes at our door. And if we don't have the money to pay them back, I mean, we go to jail, right? So, and then that's how we learn how to manage our finances better. But that was the market before Mint they came. I mean, and what they did was they put together a whole range of tools on the same website where people could go and do many different kind of analytics for their own personal financial situation and make very good, very smart decisions on their spending. So it's proactive. So from being someone like me to being proactive with your finances, and that's the value in their business. And this is their pitch. You can see the pitch what they have. You spend the majority of your life working for your money, but you know how your money works for you. So this was their pitch, and they have done pretty well. They got several rounds of funding, and they eventually got acquired. So this story is really inspiring for entrepreneurs in the sense how you can go from an idea, solving a problem, to an actual business. So are you guys psyched now? Do you guys feel excited after listening to this story? Yeah. So we'll look at some characteristics of pitches. Now here is a pretty loose definition of a pitch. Now when you talk pitch, now I see a couple of keywords. One is the idea, then the second is the value proposition. The idea and the value proposition, how you put them together. Do you like this definition of pitch? What do you think about it? What are your thoughts on this? Does it make sense? To approach our code, it could be a person, it could be a company, it could be someone from the other.
Could you explain it more further? What do you mean? And how is it? Why are you telling me this?
Okay, that's a good question. And as we go further, we'll see why it's relevant and what are they made of. So here, why should I care about a pitch? And that's exactly what your question is. Now a pitch, we are talking about a business pitch. And when we are starting out with on a new business, it often makes sense to have some kind of partnership in terms of money, because you don't want to put all your money. You would probably invest some of your money, but to take the business to scale, you would need some help there. So that's where the pitch comes into picture. And you want to engage investors. That's very important. You want to promote your philosophy or your idea of the business. You want to build relationships. Now, pitch is also an opportunity to engage, the audience. As you go and talk to other people, you talk about your business. So even if you are not actually doing a business, you are promoting the idea of, doing a business. So that itself has some value in it. And then you want to inspire innovation. Now that's another unseen kind of, it's a hidden value there. So does it make sense now? Is it a little better? Okay, so let's go on to the next slide. So what does a good pitch do? Now, it's very important to convey our business idea in a meaningful way. And the more you think about it, the more it will make sense to you. So we want to convey our business proposition in a concise and meaningful way. Now you also want to delight investors. Now when you go and meet with investors and when you give your pitch, there's an opportunity to delight that person, the investor. So there's that side to it. And then, obviously you want to promote your business and you want to engage the audience. Any thoughts? So what do you guys think about it?
Just have a look.
Yeah.
Just to be honest, these are straightforward. Everything of the details that you said could be found in the internet.
Right.
What I'm looking for, how you convey, why you say, you need to delight, but how?
Exactly.
Do you have techniques, the way you say, the way you write, the way things? Because these are all flaws for me.
These are characteristics. Once we learn the characteristics, we'll see how to convey our business idea in a meaningful way. We'll have a couple of exercises. So now we are learning the characteristics. So if it's making sense to you, right? In the sense you agree with the characteristics. And if you think there are some characteristics that I may have missed there, yeah, feel free to kind of share that info.
Value.
Definitely value.
Value. What is the value? That's important because if you say something, you give products to a certain person, even it is not yet your customers. What is the value that they could get? Because it's a chain reaction. What I mean is that chain reaction is a continuing usage. So if you will not target the value today,
I get it. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. And here, the keyword here is the narrative. The narrative is it's like a story, and the story has your business idea. It also has a value proposition. It has what your product is about. So there's a lot. It's like a keyword that has a lot of meaning in it, and we'll see about it as we go further. I think you wanted to say something. Okay. Now, when you're pitching to investors, you would have very little time, and typically it's less than 2 minutes. So you'd have to be very, you'd have to distill everything very effectively. So you have 2 minutes, and if you're writing it should be less than 1 page. And the handout that you have, that's pretty much 1 page, and we'll have a look at it. By the way, have you guys done pitches? I think some of you already have products, right? Products and services. Have you had any experience with pitching? Have you written pitches?
Informal, but not formal, but not in a large audience.
Nothing yet, okay.
Yeah, so it's a one-on-one, and it's subject for a need, and sometimes if they require more explanations, and then more than 2 minutes.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Well, yeah. There's usually a follow-up. Now we have that very small window to engage investors. It's less than 2 minutes, and that will pretty much determine whether you can get your foot in the door. And that's why it's very important to get your pitch kind of in a meaningful way, and that's concise. And we'll get to it in a while. Now, how do I craft a pitch? Now, my suggestion is you start with a business plan, your whole business idea, your business philosophy, and you start working backwards. Now, your business plan will be a document. It could range from 20 pages to several hundreds of pages. So that's pretty much your business plan. And then you take that business plan and come down to 1 page. And I'm not talking of an executive summary here, but I'm talking of a 1-page business plan, and this is what you have in your handout. Now when you come down to 1 page, now you have to shrink it further, and with this information you craft the narrative. And here one important lesson here is less is more. We should be able to convey a lot of meaning with very less information. So I think, is the worldview clear? Is the philosophy clear? It makes sense? You guys agree?
Yeah, I think what I'm looking into as well is when is the appropriate time for you to do your pitch? Is there a specific action plan you have to do for you to be able to do your pitch to someone you meet or to this?
That's a great question. And there are many businesses that have completely Now a pitch comes into picture if you are meeting with investors, you are trying to raise money. So that's one very important reason why you make pitches. But if you're already bootstrapping and you're achieving some level of success, and maybe you don't have to do a pitch, you can go for a grant, or you can go for other ways of raising money. So a pitch is relevant when you are meeting with investors. That is usually the timing is you want to have now investors. Now that's another area of discussion, and a lot of investors will not meet with you unless you have a minimum viable product. That's very important. So I think there's a lot of misunderstanding in the sense if there's a pitching contest, you write a pitch and there is no actual product there. So that's a no-go. I would say don't do that. Have your product first, build your business model around it, and then start crafting the pitch. And then that will give you an opportunity to, it will make things very efficient for you. In the sense you have your pitch, there are investor meetings, like, you can go to meetups, you can go to events where you can meet investors, and pretty much you will have less than 1 minute. And you can meet with a lot of investors in a single day, and that's when your pitch will, help you get your foot in the door.
Okay.
So you're saying that it is advantage that you have already the products rather than your idea, which is more perfect timing to go with investors with a product or
a minimum viable product. Now, if you're already an established entrepreneur, let's say you have already developed several products and they have been successful, maybe your idea will have some value. So, but if you're starting out new, if you're a new entrepreneur, it's a must, I would say, to have a minimum viable product. I mean, it's a must, yeah. And nowadays, I mean, it's quite intense in the sense it's very competitive, and everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. It's the whole the entrepreneurship worldview is gaining more popularity among the millennials. So it makes sense to have, it's become competitive. That's what I mean to say. And when you have a product, it will give you a lot more advantage rather than somebody who has a very good idea. Now, I have had some very good ideas, and they have not got an audience. And these are very big ideas. I mean, I can't talk about it, but ideas generally, I mean, they will not get, they will not move on to the next round. Like if
until you have some kind of a product or an example to show the investor.
Sorry. Because when I heard about pitch, it's usually like spoken, right? But does it necessarily need to be like like this spoken word, or it's okay to do it as well on writing? Because sometimes, like when we do networking on social media or online, we can like directly talk to someone, right? Like we can also do that in writing.
Yeah, the pitch worldview is emerging. It's quite recent, and generally it means you're talking.
Oh.
Like it's a verbal pitch, but the idea is also the written pitch is also gaining kind of there is some level of acceptance, in the sense a lot of people would want to know what your product or service is in a more detailed way rather than having to read your entire business plan. So this idea is gaining acceptance, and you could use one page. I mean, I definitely promote the one page written page because it's a little more in detail than your verbal communication, and then it also conveys a lot of information.
So when you mentioned the word building his plan, so is that same as building his pitch?
Well, the pitch, when we are saying the pitch, the business pitch, it's your it has to do with the time frame, right? If I give you 1 minute and say you give me a business pitch, so that becomes your kind of the pitch that we are talking about. But if I give you an hour, you might want to elaborate on the pitch, and that becomes a business plan.
Okay.
So yeah, it depends on the context, I would say, and use it appropriately depending on the kind of situation. If you have an investor
And
who
the
is,
risk with the time.
well, that's one key
Yeah.
constraint.
Yeah. But when we talk about the world building plan, I think it can be also referred to something that to be used within your company or within your group.
Yes, yes. For like, I see what you're saying. The scenario is different. If you're already a business, you would still have a business plan for your operations, right? And if you're a startup, you have a slightly different business plan. Yeah. The context is slightly different, yeah. But here, I think our context is startups and new businesses.
Okay.
Now here's what I have done for my business now. Technical communication, I like that space. That space is completely disorganized, that's what I feel. It's not organized. And now the digital environment, the online environment has opened up the space to communicate, like, people communication, I mean, there's like people communication, there's, I'm sure you guys are familiar with fake news and all this kind of stuff, right? So there is no standardization when it comes to communication, people to people to business, business to people, business to people, business to business. So at some point in time, the information overload will get so heavy that we will have to find ways to, make our communication meaningful. And that's how our friends, like, data scientists, they help make sense of data, right? I think there are many applications, AI applications, where they actually take data from, many of these messaging and communication systems like Twitter, and you put an AI machine learning tool on top of it just to make sense of what the actual message is. That's the kind of environment we are operating in. So I like that space. So this is how I made my pitch. Digi is the digital sphere, and fair, it means to have fun doing things, and to have fun doing things that's in an online environment. So I'm looking at providing these services on the cloud, and it should be fun while doing it. And narrative is the story. The story should be meaningful. And then the space is technical communication. So that's my pitch. That's my, less than 1 minute pitch. So do you think it's meaningful?
It sounds like taglines.
Taglines or idioms. Taglines or idiomatic expressions.
Okay.
But it does sound like a tagline, yeah. Like it does speaks more about like what your business is.
Yeah.
It talks more about like what you're in for as well, like narrative for the soul.
Right.
So it speaks mostly like what you value
Okay.
as a business.
Okay.
And Digifaire speaks about like what kind of medium you're gonna be using.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the online medium.
Yeah.
And also, we want to have fun while working online.
Yeah. The method.
And you have the technical communication. That's the spectrum of services.
Yeah.
So it's possible, I guess.
Yeah, and then like without us doing like without you putting out all those bullets as to what your products and services is, that kind of tagline like already speaks for everything that you're doing for, like what your business is.
Okay. Okay.
So this is, you're telling us this is a sample of this.
This is my pitch.
Yeah, of course. As your sample, so we will take it as a sample, but you're saying that it's good and this is how it should be. And I see different colors on it, and I see also different message. You're saying that about you're talking about digital. You're talking about fun, which is
Okay.
being open to the public and everywhere or anything. It's fun.
Okay.
And then
I'll break it
Your narrative is also giving a value. My question, and also the way your communication. My question is, normally in a corporate,
Right.
or even a small business,
Right.
sometimes the traditional way of defining a business is only a simple thing,
Right.
straight,
Right.
and sometimes what does the word says already explain one single meaning, but for here
Yeah.
we are looking different meanings.
Well, I don't think different meanings, but we have several different dimensions, I would say, and I'd like to clarify it. Now, Digi, and what we are doing is we are building the cloud. So when you go on, the cloud is not yet ready yet. So when you go there, this pretty much means the cloud. So we are going to provide the services on the cloud. And the fair, this means doing things. So we are doing things on the cloud, and it also means it's an expression of having fun. So we should be we are having fun providing these services on the cloud. Okay. So I think there's no confusion there, right? Is there? We have the medium, the channel, how we are providing the service, and we also want to say that we are having fun doing it.
Yes, I understand.
Okay.
I understand you, but if you are not saying to us,
Right.
I do not understand because this is a business card, right?
Yeah. Maybe I shouldn't have put a business card. You should ignore the other things.
Yeah, because what I understand is a business card.
Okay. I think you're seeing it in a different. You're seeing. Just ignore the business other details and just look.
Because
at
you put the phone number and you put the email number.
I was
It says
feeling
business
lazy.
card.
I was feeling lazy. You know?
Oh, okay, now I get you. That's why when I look at this business card, normally business card is just only one meaning, the name and the company, and then you will immediately explain by yourself what they're doing. For example, a business card and you have a logo of Apple, you know it. Apple. But for here, you're saying that you're saying that you are offering and doing a digital. You have to have fun using a DigiCloud and to make it value for everyone, and then with an open communication. So that's what I said. But if you didn't tell me,
Okay.
and I am looking into it as a business card, why?
Okay. Well, that's a good point. Maybe there's some scope of confusion if you start the first time. Maybe. Yeah, I think now technical communication, that's a space we are looking at. We are not looking at web copy or writing for the web. That's a different area. Now we are looking at only technical communication. And by technical communication, I mean if you have a product or service, you pretty much have an offer document, your product specifications. So that's technical communication for you. And you would have either you do it yourself or you hire an expert from the industry who will do it for you. So we want to provide that service, the technical communication service. Yeah, all the technical communication. It starts with a white paper. Let's say if you want to build a new product, you start with an idea or a white paper, and then when your product is on the market, you have a specifications and you have a product document. So you're pretty much liable for your product. So this document has to be it has to be written very
Detail.
yeah, it has to have good information in there. So that's the space we are looking at.
But this is how we should put it. There's a name, there is a logo. If you will have to present it with the investors, that's what I am looking for.
Yeah, no, this I'm not presenting to investors. I'm on I'm meeting with investors, and I think I'm receiving kind of mixed signals in the sense. Well, I have had some good kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we will not use the same presentation when we do this the pitch.
If you want to promote my business, go for it. Use it.
Because you have the name. My concern is if let's say 1 minute that they have given to me. What shall I say to my one-page slide?
Yeah.
What are the information and
You would-
what should it
You
look
would
like?
have everything. You would have everything except left the name here. Now I'm providing, this is my 1 minute page. Okay? I'm providing technical communication services on the cloud, and we are having fun doing it. And this service will cover your entire spectrum of technical communication needs, starting from white paper to a product specification.
Do we need design?
So that's my 1 minute. I think I timed it correctly.
Yes. Do we need design in doing it?
We'll do a couple of pitches now. We'll do a couple of pitches. I think we'll do your pitch maybe.
No, I mean, do we need design? Like, do you have this design colored or something? That's what my concern.
Well, colors, they convey meaning. So it's like a visual aid. You could make your presentation colorful if it's a written one. I mean, you could make it colorful. My personal view is you should make use of all tools you have to convey meaning. So that gives you a little more advantage. But I think a lot of, like, if you go and talk to people in the industry, like generally, I mean, people print cards in bulk. Like, you get deals for $10, you can print 1,000 cards, and they have their templates, and you just fill in your details. And then you give your cards, and then nothing happens, and you print another 1,000. So this is an opportunity for you to kind of think what you're doing and how you're providing value, because there's an exchange of information, right? And it's a great opportunity to learn more about the other person and interact with the other person. And even if you're not doing a business, it's an impression of creation, right? And it could be like you may remember, you may have 1,000 cards in your at home, and there are some cards probably you like more than others, right? So your goal is to become one of those.
You're right. That's why I cannot, move to the next steps, because there might be information which I didn't know, that the color and something would affect attracting customers, getting to my business. You know what I mean?
I think I'm getting what you're saying. It's a different area of discussion, and the reason I'm not going into it is, well, expression, like the whole communication space is like when you think communication, like there's what you call computer science, like quantum field. Yeah, quantum physics, where you are transmitting information instantaneously. What I'm thinking is directly imprinting on your mind, and that's one way. And so there's a whole spectrum of communication, in the sense, and your goal is to convey your worldview as concisely and meaningfully as possible to the other person. So you can use colors, you can use words, you can use symbols, you can use expressions, you can use metaphors. It's a very big space. It's a very big space. We could talk all day about it. Maybe in your travel industry, probably. There are expressions. Maybe you go to certain places, you can just use one word, and people will. Like if I say Loch Ness monster, what comes to mind? Have you heard of Loch Ness monster? I think Scotland,
dinosaurs,
yeah.
That's the lake.
Yeah. So there are expressions, symbols, and metaphors. So there's a whole range of tools. We'll not go into it, but I would suggest optimize it in a way that is useful to you. Okay,
So
now
I have a quick question. You mentioned about having fun when people using your service,
right.
I'm curious about how do you define having fun?
Having fun that's a very good question, and we are still building the cloud, and what is very important to us is does this make sense? Workflow? No. Workflow, I'll elaborate a little bit on it. Now, the customer journey, and workflow, they're very important in your product design. When you design a product, you have to make sure that the workflow is as efficient as possible, so that the customer has a good experience. Now, in technical communication, I'll give you an example. There are some industries, energy industry is one, then product is one, and then also software development is one. And probably when you build your, have you documented your software?